Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
Welcome to the Side Action, episode 2 of season 4, episode 101 for you guys counting. I am Jim Weglars, a.k.a. Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, a.k.a. Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter. So Action, obviously we're here. We're opening night is tonight. We're taping on Thursday the 9th. We're going on our big trip tomorrow for the opening weekend. I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, about 2 hours and 10 minutes until kickoff here on the East Coast. I guess it's the same time frame for you in the Central Time Zone. But right. I don't know. I'm not super excited for this game for whatever reason. I guess it's just Tom Brady in Tampa that's had me with little interest. Yeah. I'm more ready for the weekend.
Yeah, Sunday will be big, and we'll talk about those games. So how was your weekend? You obviously were on another boat channel somewhere in the greater Detroit area.
It was nice. We took the boat out a couple times this weekend, went to Lake St. Clair, which is the lake just to the east between Huron and Lake Erie, and just kind of tooled around, went through a bunch of islands and saw Canada for a few minutes. Oh. So that was cool. We stopped at a couple little bars along the channels and had some beers. And then on the way back across Lake St. Clair, it was super windy, and I realized that the lake is way too big for our small boat, and it was kind of tossing and turning us. It felt like we were in like some sort of adventure movie trying to get across the lake. The waves were like splashing me across the face. It was rather miserable.
Okay. So, you got a paddle on that boat just in case?
Yeah, we've got a paddle and some life jackets. We'll be good.
Nice.
How was your weekend?
Well, huge AVP weekend. That's the American Volleyball Professionals Association or whatever. Association of Volleyball Professionals, probably. So they had the tournament here in Chicago. It was the capping tournament for the season. Obviously, it was an abbreviated season with the Olympics. And we were lucky enough to get, one of 3 events here in Chicago. And, actually, I don't know if you've ever been to the AVP, but one thing that's really different about other sporting events is the accessibility to the players. I went both on Friday and Saturday. I lost my voice a little bit on Saturday, so I didn't go on Sunday. But you can be so close to the players. I mean, the outer courts are, you're within 10 feet, or so of the players. And after the games, you can go up and take photos, and they even play with you. Like when some of my friends stuck around and played like King of the Court, which is kind of a multi-person kind of game that you play instead of an actual game. And one of my buddies was playing with like Sarah Sponsel, who's like a really good player, and with Kame Shaw. And so it's just kind of one of these things that it's a different culture from a sports perspective. And all of my volleyball friends were out there. Maybe snuck in some contraband alcohol. Shout out to Luke, my buddy, my Modelo buddy. He's a listener now as a result of our hanging out this summer. But yeah, it's just a great scene. And I mean, it was the end of a career for Jake Gibb, who's a kind of prolific player and blocker on the tour. And it was his last tournament. Got to see, Dahlhauser and Lucena, who have been like the traditional great players. But then the young guns are coming up, so it's been great. And, had a great time. You got to see the Olympic team, the A team as they call them, April Ross and Alex Kleinman, and they won the women's side. They dominate. So they won the gold medal in Tokyo, but also here. So it just was a great weekend. I played on Monday. I got to play in my own tournament, not quite as high level as the AVP, but there were some good players out there. And in fact, our first match, we had to play a girl who she was playing in the qualifier for the AVP. I don't know how she got in this tournament. So we got roasted, but the rest of the tournament was pretty fun and just a beautiful weekend in Chicago. Just great to, say goodbye to summer. And it's still beautiful out now, but we know the winter's coming. So sorry, America.
That's right. It'll be here before we know it.
That's right. So anyway, but I'm really looking forward to our big weekend in Vegas. We'll talk more about that at the end. But it looks like you've already put some stuff on the contest, as most of you know who listen, last week and to us last year, we're entering the big Circa Million contest, the Circa Million 3. They have this $4 million guaranteed payout. But as of this morning, they have only 3,444 entries, or actually as of this taping. So there's still a big overlay out there, actually.
Yeah, I still think that it's probably going to get to the 4,000 entry mark and get to that $4 million threshold. Much like last year, the very last weekend, they went well above the total. So I fully expect there won't be an overlay by the time we sign up on Saturday morning.
Yeah, and the good news is if it goes over the 4 million, there'll be additional payouts, and especially in the quarterly contest, which is great. So that's nice. They did that last year. I did hear Mike Palm, the palm reader guy who works for Circa, with mentioned Paulie, and they were talking about he thinks they're going to hit up maybe 4,200, just kind of his bogey. They did have a bet like an over-under will be like 38-12, but he's saying that they're doing a couple hundred a day right now, so they still have a couple days left, and I'm sure there's a big ramp up like us going out there for the weekend.
Yeah, the big news that is on all the talk shows is the Survivor contest, which
Mm-hmm.
is also $1,000 entry. And I think Derek guaranteed $6 million for that contest this year. And right now that one's only at like 3,100. So they have a long ways to go in that one. And I think a lot of the pros out in Nevada are talking about that being a major overlay, which is just your pretty standard Survivor contest.
Right. Yeah. Standard Survivor. I mean, I've thought about it. If it was, can't really afford $2,000 contest action, not
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point when my daughter Sophia's through college. But I mean, Survivors. I went pretty late last year. My little Survivor that I do was like a $10, but it was still a great payout, like $3,000 or something to the winner. I think I got the week 10 or 12 or something like that. I mean, sometimes you hit those streaks, and other times it can be just Armageddon in week one. So they're really fun, but yeah, I'll get a little more entries in that.
I've heard some chatter, though, if Tampa Bay loses tonight, that could knock out a huge number of entries, and then we could potentially be starting at a big advantage if, say, like 800 or so entries get knocked out tonight. Go Cowboys.
So you're saying when you roll the dice on Friday night,
That's right.
it's the victory. We got an extra grand. Let's throw it in the Survivor too.
Yeah, we can just take a yellow chip right over to the sportsbook.
That's right. I like that yellow chip. All right, let's talk too about big picture. There's a lot of things happening in the NFL. One is obviously Hurricane Ida has kind of, done a lot of damage in New Orleans, so they've relocated that game, and it's not just for this week; it's up to 8 weeks. That's crazy.
Yeah, New Orleans is really in a bad spot again, and it's going to impact the Saints season, which is appropriate for our discussion here because they're essentially not going to be able to play at the Mercedes-Benz Dome
Right.
for 2 months. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the Saints get out of the gate. They're already without a healthy Michael Thomas, and they've got the new starting quarterback in Jameis Winston. So New Orleans could be a team that struggles to get in sync early on.
Absolutely. You've also listed that the NFC teams have a bunch of road games this week. It's just kind of like an interesting one. Nine of the NFC teams are on the road, whereas 9 AFC teams are at home. A little bit of a home and away advantage this week. I'm sure it'll flip, but it kind of rolls into a question you have next is, do you think there's going to be a home field advantage this year, whereas last year it was basically negated, wasn't it?
Yeah, last year we saw that the road teams really had an advantage. I mean, well, more so an advantage than what we're used to. So with the fans coming back and the stadiums across the league this year, it'll be interesting to see whether or not that reverts back to what we're historically seeing or whether that home field advantage might actually be less than what we've normally seen pre-COVID. Have you given any thought to that, Wags?
Well, I mean, when you think about home field advantage, I mean, obviously you have like the Seattle, the 12th man and people going crazy and stuff. But I think a lot of it is more about, false start penalties or, that kind of thing, getting the offense. It's really a disadvantage for the offense, isn't it? More often than not, where you kind of have that situation where they're in a comeback mode. The crowd's going crazy. They can't get their audibles called. I mean, that's kind of where it is. I mean, certainly there's passion and I'm sure people play better at home because they got to sleep in their own bed. But last year kind of proved that without the crowd noise, you could actually hear the audible calls on the, you know, I mean, you could hear on the telecast. So that means everybody could. So it sounds to me that I think there is going to be more of an advantage, but who knows if it's going to be full. I don't know if every stadium is going to be packed to the gills. I mean, I've been to a couple Cubs games. No, actually, they've been winning. They still suck. But I wouldn't say it's an advantage to play in baseball, but in football, it always seems like an advantage to me.
Yeah. I've heard some folks consider that some of the sophomore quarterbacks might have the biggest hurdle from going from what they saw last year in all these empty stadiums and now going in packed houses could have even more of an effect, that it might be greater than even the rookies or some of the more tenured quarterbacks.
Sure. So you're talking about Herbert and Burrow,
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, it's a big difference, and not to mention, you know, obviously the travel is probably born back to normal. I don't know if it was normalized last year. Last year was kind of unique with the testing. Anyway, you also had a note about Sunday night and Monday night considerations. I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Yeah, it's just, you know, trying to think about how typically we as a partner, a duo here, tend to gravitate to those Sunday night and Monday night games historically.
Right.
And I wonder, I've given some thought to if that has to do with just being the bigger games of the week. We feel that we have more knowledge about them because they're typically going to be the better teams, more higher profile. And I was just wanted to see what your thoughts were about if we could use that as a strategy to see if maybe we want to try and back off those a little bit more this season.
I mean, I think last year we didn't do a lot of Monday night games. It seems like we did a lot of Sunday. We always stay away from the Thursday night game, which is, you know, for the people that are new in our audience, the way Circa works is if you play the Thursday night game, you have to put all 5 of your picks prior to that kickoff, which really puts the pressure. You only get 2 hours to analyze your data, and also you're kind of rolling the dice with injuries. So we usually throw out Thursday, and that puts us on the Sunday card and then maybe Monday. I'm not against that strategy. I think it makes sense. I think we've done that in the past, even last year, where we try to stay away from the big pick games, try to do kind of contrarian approach where we were trying to pick games that were maybe either not as well picked or take the opposite side, right? And I'm all for that. I mean, we want to try to win the contest, not just do okay. So if you think that that's the case, I mean, certainly the flex games on Sunday are usually almost always pretty good, at least the second half of the season. Monday's duds, you know, so.
True.
Yeah.
Just something I was thinking about.
Hey, I like that. I mean, the guy's got great hair and a good noodle. He's thinking about some good stuff. Well, let's get into this week. So this is our normal format. We're going to be, you know, as weeks go on, we'll talk a little bit more about metrics. This first week, we don't have anything. I mean, we had 3 preseason games that were essentially meaningless because not that many people played that much football. So now what we'll do is we're just going to roll in. This is more of our preseason takes, I suppose, and what we've heard. Whereas maybe after week 3 or 4, we're looking at some deep metrics to figure out which teams are actually playing better.
I think some of the last season's data is still applicable in many cases, especially for teams that didn't have a lot of turnover, like Tampa Bay, for example. I would expect their offense is going to be looking a lot like last year.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of a factor. So we'll go over it. We'll kind of glaze over tonight's games, and it's already, you know, essentially by the time you listen to this, it'll be in action. But Tampa is now a pretty heavy favorite in this game. They opened as a 6-point favorite at home, all the way up to 9 in the contest. Do you think that that's just trying to get people to put that on the card? I mean, that's a pretty big number. I mean, consensus is 8, you know, 8-point favorite. 9's a big number. It's almost like, please take Dallas on this one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I would expect that the contest picks are going to be higher to Dallas than Tampa Bay at this number. But, I mean, to be honest, I think that Tampa Bay is going to come out firing tonight. And I have a feeling that Dallas is going to be in a little bit of hurt, and I don't know what to expect out of Dak Prescott. And they could try to rely on the running game, which might be a great strategy against most opponents, but not the Bucs. Their front 7 is going to shut down Zeke tonight in the running game, and it's all going to be on Dak and the receivers. So I'm interested to see how Dak performs here in week 1.
Yeah, he's got to go all out. I don't really like the way they looked on Hard Knocks, as we've talked about it. You know, McCarthy stinks. Just keep saying that. But 9 points a lot. But Tampa certainly is 100% healthy and ready to go. And Dallas, I think Zach Martin's hurt again, so
Hmm.
one of these things that Dallas is going to be at a disadvantage, and they're probably a little outclassed there. But I'm definitely going to watch the game. So I'm
Oh
going to
yeah.
say, well, let's get to the
I'm turning off the
1 o'clock.
TV tonight, Wags.
Of course you are. I might go Foreshadow, so shout out to the
Nice.
Foreshadows, our favorite Chicago bar. We'll see if I can get over there. Get over there after this. So the 1 o'clock slate, that's Eastern time. There's a ton of games. You put the first one on the top. I maybe was going to kick it to later, but Pittsburgh going to Buffalo. This is a rematch from last season. Started off as 5.5 on the opener. The total's 51. I didn't mention the total in the other game it's 50. It's 51.5. But 51 was the opener. Now the Bills at 6.5 in the contest. I'm curious to hear what you have to say. I have some opinions on this one, Action. How about you?
Well, I have already bet the Bills minus six and a
Yeah.
half months ago, actually, um, and that was really just understanding what their offense is going to be like this season. I think that Josh Allen is going to take a huge leap forward, and I expect that their offense is going to be really, really good this year. Now,
Mhm.
Pittsburgh's defense is certainly one of the better ones in the league, although they did lose some key pieces off of that unit in the offseason. I did see that they finally got Watt to sign his contract this afternoon. So
Okay.
that was initially part of my handicapping too. I wasn't sure how ready to play Watt was going to be, but I think now that he's got his money, he'll be ready to go on Sunday. And I still would probably lean to the Bills, but I think that it's not with strong conviction for our contest purposes. What do you think?
Okay. I'd be on the Steelers here, buddy.
Okay.
I'm not totally against you here, but I love the Bills on the season. I'm a big Bills backer. I was last year too. Josh Allen's my guy. I've been pumping him up for 2 years, even in my draft preview a couple years ago. But I don't like this number. It's a big number. Pittsburgh's a very good team, great defense. I mean, it's almost 7 points. That's kind of a beatdown territory. It's like like the third or fourth highest spread on the board here.
Hmm.
I would take points all day on this one. I may do that when we go to Circa on Saturday.
What do you make of the line move from opener in early summer of 5.5, and now we're looking at 6.5? Do you think any real reason for that?
I think the Bills look great, especially when they had Allen out there playing. I think, well, they beat up the Bears, but when they were at full strength in the one preseason game for a half, Josh Allen looked incredible. They lit it up that day, so I'm sure that's part of it. So I think they are, putting this line a little high in the contest because they want somebody to bet Pittsburgh. But I do think that kind of makes sense. I don't think Pittsburgh's done anything poorly. I mean, they haven't really addressed the offensive line still.
Right.
I just think full health, even with the loss of Dupree, I don't know. It's not going to be a slugfest by any means, but I think it's 6.5 is a lot of points just for me. But we can let that. We probably won't pick that one, but
Okay.
we'll keep
Let it
going.
marinate.
That's right. Here's one. First of all, we should say for our new listeners, Action loves the underdog, so him picking a favorite is incredible. This just in 2021. He's on
Yeah.
two favorites already.
It's a new league, Wags. I don't know. All the offense that we've seen last year, we didn't even talk about how scoring was up at a record number in 2020. So I think
Right.
that when you're looking at some of these numbers, that the keys are 3 and 7, and really with the scoring values being so much higher, then I think there might be some value in favorites. I'm turning over a new leaf.
Wow. And I'm on the opposite. Okay, let's keep going. So here's the next one. We've got the Jets going to Carolina. It opened as 3.5, 43.5 point total. It's right up. Actually, consensus has it up to 5.5. Carolina being favored and a 44.5 point total. But in the contest, it's 3.5 for the Panthers. So it goes kind of back to there. I think that they're kind of looking at both sides of it. By the way, we just got a text from Dempsey who's going to be on the trip and a picture of his room from Circa. I mean, to post that.
All
Um,
right.
but anyway, I actually agree with this line. I think that if it came out at 5 or 4.5, like I was seeing earlier in the week, I'd be all over the Jets here, baby. I've heard glowing reports about Zach Wilson, and I haven't seen the kid play. And I was one of those guys who thought he was overdrafted. but I heard he's playing really well. You talked about Saleh. He's got that locker room. Carolina's a solid team, but, revenge game for Sam Darnold and all. But I think that this is going to be a really, probably a pretty close game. 3.5, you get the hook there. I'm not saying we have to do it for the contest, but I'd be on the Jets here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious where that 5.5 came that's shown on the consensus lines here. I'm looking at 4s now
Yeah.
this evening. So, I mean, pretty close to what the current number is. I think that maybe the Circa odds makers brought that down to 3.5 because they might be suspecting a little bit of value on the Jets.
Agreed.
I'm not really sure that I can get there right now without seeing how Zach Wilson is going to be ready for prime time. And, I have a lot of questions about Carolina too. So to be honest, I had lined this one up kind of just as a pass.
Yeah, I see at Rivers it's 4.5. So I do think it's one of those anticipatory lines that Circa's kind of making a stand, which makes sense. Well, let's go to the other kind of battle of lowbrow teams where your Jacksonville Jaguars are going to Houston. Jacksonville opened up as a 2-point favorite on the road, 46-point total. The consensus is 3 on the road favorites, 44.5. The contest has 3.5. I can't do it, dude. I know Houston's the worst team in the league, but home team, Tyrod Taylor's a decent ball player. He's not going to turn the ball over a lot. I'd be on the home dog here.
Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I really was all lined up to try and go against the public in this game with Houston, but they just traded away, I think yesterday, their number one cornerback, Roby, I think is his name.
Right. Roby.
I think that was a sign of things to come and what they have planned for their season. I mean, we talked about last week, the quarterback who shall not be named is not going to be seen. And I don't know who's going to be playing. And as bad as Jacksonville might be, I think Houston might be trying to lose already.
Okay. Maybe you're right. I just it's tough to see a team at home against. The Jacksonville's no good.
Division game too. Division.
Yeah. We always know those division games. So, I'm not going to ever say we're going to take that in the contest, but if we want to confirm, you think the public's going to be on Jacksonville, right?
80% right now, Wags, of the cash is on Jacksonville. 60% of the tickets, though. So it's a little bit more split on the ticket count.
Right. Okay, let's go.
I could definitely be convinced on Sunday morning to look at a Houston spread, but I'm not sure about the contest.
Yeah. We got to pick our 5 best. How about this one? Here's the pitch. Arizona going to Tennessee. Tennessee opened up as a 2.5-point favorite at home, 51.5 total. The total's up to 52. Consensus says -3, which that's the contest line of Titans -3. I've heard a lot of sharps picking Arizona in this one. Mainly what I heard was you give, what's his name, Kingsbury some time and offense against kind of a bad defense, which you talked about last week, despite obviously we love Derrick Henry and that running game. But Arizona healthy now, especially with Kyler Murray, they're going to put up some points in this one. I think they're a live dog in this one, action.
Yeah, I'm in agreement on this game. I like Arizona with the points. I think you touched on it, that Kyler Murray, for me, is the number one part of this handicap. You saw early last season when he was actually running the ball, their offense was way more dynamic, and they were able to score in bunches. And then he hurt that shoulder, and he just wasn't the same quarterback. So
could be aggressive running the ball.
They've added A.J. Green, who I think is going to be a sneaky play in fantasy, and I'm looking at receiving props for A.J. and also Rondale Moore, boiler up.
That's right. I knew you were going to mention your boy.
So I'm definitely liking Arizona in this too. The question I have is, how do you think that Arizona run defense is going to hold up against King Henry?
They probably won't, but I think this is a shootout. I think 52 is actually a little low, to be honest with you, in this one. So I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, and it should be a really fun game to watch. It's at the 1 o'clock slate, so what is that, 10 o'clock? 9 o'clock? Gosh, 4 hours, that's right. So it's 2 hours
10.
in.
You're right.
10.
College football starts at 9 o'clock.
I was like, wow, that's early. But, so the 10 o'clock slate, I'm looking forward to seeing this one, and I'm definitely going to have some money on this game. Okay, this is another one I definitely like in our contest is the Chargers are going to Washington. This is an interesting line move. The Chargers opened as a 2-point favorite on the road with a 44.5 point total. Consensus still has them as a 1-point favorite. I don't know if that's up to the minute. I'm seeing, obviously, in the contest, now Washington's the favorite by 1 point. I'm seeing that also at Rivers at 1 point. So there's a lot of conflicting choices here. When I first saw the line at -2, I was all over Washington. I love this team defensively. To your point about, you said maybe Herbert's going to have a sophomore slump. I like the Chargers. I said that in our opener last week, but I like Washington more. I've talked about the future tickets that I'm going to buy when I get out to Circa. So what's your take on this one?
Yep, I'm in line. I've already bet Washington also. I did take the +1 before it flipped, and you're right. I think that the line I had up here was from a couple days ago. It's looking like Washington is -1 across the board. So
Yep.
not a major move really from across 0, 1 on either side.
Right.
But for me, it's just going against the Chargers and their new offense, really. I mean, Herbert's back, and they have a lot of the same pieces back, but you're talking about a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, and none of their starters played in the preseason. Staley comes from the McVay tree where they just don't give a flying F about the preseason. And I think that's really going to be problematic for them in week 1, especially against this Washington defense. They are going to be monsters. So I'd be happy to go against the Chargers.
Yeah, me too. So, hey, we're in agreement. Although I talked to, it was Ulrich yesterday. He listened to the podcast. He goes, "You guys need to disagree more." I'm like, "Well, we in this podcast, but not on our picks." So, anyway, well, let's go to the next one. So, Philly is going to Atlanta again. Kind of a lowly matchup here. Atlanta opened as a 4-point favorite at home, 47.5 point total. The consensus has it down to 3, and as well as the contest, 3-point favorite for Falcons. 48-point total. To me, it's a stay away. I don't know about you, Action. I don't like either of these teams. I can see maybe you could maybe talk me into Philadelphia only because you get points. But, Atlanta has this. I'm not sure what to expect out of this team. I don't know what either team has. Robert, what's his name? What's the coach? What's the coach's?
Sirianni? Which side?
It's a battle of new coaches. The other guy.
Yeah. He was the coordinator from Tennessee.
Right. I got to go back to my notes.
His name either.
Yeah. Whatever. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I was looking at this game, it'd be the underdog Eagles. I believe that they're going to have an advantage in the trenches on both sides. Their defensive line is still pretty legit.
Right.
And I think going up against that weak and shaky offensive line for Atlanta could be tough for them. So I agree that I think it's probably a pass. This is a game I don't really want much of a part of. But if I had to lean, I would say the Eagles.
Arthur Smith. Sorry,
there
America.
You go.
I was thinking like Roger Smith. I don't know what I can. Yeah, Arthur Smith is the coach. Again, battle of head coaches. Neither of them I'm very impressed with, but I think it's a stay away for the contest for me. Let's go to your squad. Seattle is facing Indy in Indianapolis. Indy opened as a 2-point favorite. That must have been really early, maybe before Carson Wentz got injured. 52-point total. It now consensus is flipped to 2.5 for the Seahawks on the road. 49.5 point total. And in the contest, it's all the way up to 3. Now, I'm going to let you speak first. I have some feelings on this game, which may be contrary to what you think.
Well, I just think that this move is drastic. I mean, you said it. The move was because of Carson Wentz's injury, and now he's back. I mean, he got sick and he missed some practice time too, but I really don't think that Carson Wentz missing some practice time is worth 5.5 points. Now, I know there are some other players that are involved in that move too, namely Quentin Nelson, the all-star guard for the Colts, but I just saw a practice report that he came back today too and is expected to play. T.Y. Hilton can take it or leave it. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think he's a major player to this number either. So I really think that this is a major value play with Indianapolis. And I don't think that Seattle's defense is any good either. I expect there's going to be a ton of points in this game. I really like the over as well.
Yeah, we agree again. Sorry, Johnny
Damn it.
Ulrich. I'm all over Indy in this game. I don't understand how you can. You're telling me Seattle's I don't know, how good are they on a neutral field? I mean, Jesus,
Right.
this team, and this is Ridgeway's team. I don't see it. I think that Indy's defense is going to come to play. You like the over. I maybe go a little bit under here. I think Indy's defense is going to come out, and I know that Seattle's defense is really good. I mean, offense is really good, but I like their defense. They're healthy, and they were really a top unit last year. As long as Wentz doesn't do what he's done the last couple of years and turn the damn ball over, they're going to win this game. So this is one of my
Yeah,
money line picks when I go to Circa to get some money on there
I
because
like it.
I mean, Jesus, they're probably plus whatever, 165 or something at home. I mean, it's crazy to me.
Definitely.
On the same side, that's bad. Let's go to the next one. Again, kind of in this middle tier, Minnesota going to Cincinnati. Minnesota opened as a 2.5 point favorite, 47 point total on the opener. It's really right around there, 47.5 right now, and now it's gone up to 3 points in the contest and consensus. I can't really get on board with either one of these teams. I need to see these teams play personally. Action. I know that I liked Joe Burrow last year. I was trying to get you to get on board with me a couple times last year when he was covering before he got hurt. Minnesota's defense has got to be better, but
Mhm.
I don't know. These teams are ho hum to me.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I believe that this line is somewhat depressed on the Vikings side because of their really poor performance in the preseason.
Got it.
And part of that had to do with very few starters playing too. It was kind of curious to see Mike Zimmer take that approach after he's historically been really focused on preseason games. So that's kind of a curious decision in my mind, but I'm high on this Vikings team, and
Okay.
I think that this is the one game this week that has the largest coaching mismatch between Mike
Sure.
Zimmer and the Bengals coach, the butt
Taylor.
of Sean McVay, Zach Taylor. So I think that's a big key for me. I also think that the Bengals are going to have a really hard time with Dalvin Cook. I'm targeting Dalvin Cook to have probably the biggest game out of any of the wide receivers or backs in the league this weekend. So I would
Really?
like to lay the points with Minnesota.
Okay. Well, it's definitely a contrarian pick. I'm not saying contrarian in the sense that, I mean, people are going to bet on Minnesota probably, but I don't think it'd be a popular contest pick. I'll tell you that right
Sure.
now.
Yep,
So
that's
we
true.
put that as yellow right now, action. Put that as a
Okay,
yellow.
on it.
Let's go to the last 1 o'clock game, and this is in your new home of Detroit. San Francisco, my team, 49ers, they're not really my team, but I like them this year, are going there. They opened as a 7 point favorite, 47 point total. Consensus says 7.5, and the contest did that with the hook, 45 point total. I've heard sharps say just pound this number. They're going to destroy Detroit. I know that that's probably not right because it's a professional football team. But San Francisco had a rough year last year. They started off really poorly, but they're 100% healthy. And I think they're going to make a statement in week one. I wish it was 7 instead of 7.5, but I'm on board with San Francisco in this one, buddy.
Yeah, me too. I like this one. I think it's something we'll have to talk about a little bit more, see where it falls in that like 3, 4, 5 range, 6 possibly. But
Right.
this one to me has all the makings of that week one opener 2 years ago when Lamar Jackson and Baltimore went down to Miami and scored like 100 points on them. So I could see that happening this weekend in Detroit. The Niners really have the offense. I think that Brandon Ayuk is primed for a breakout week, and the Detroit defense is really not going to be able to stop them. So I agree. I think the Niners are going to cover this, and I suspect the hook was added to try to keep a lot of people off this game.
Right. Do you think that this will be a popular contest pick?
No, I don't. Just because it's a big number to
Mm-hmm.
lay in week one, and I think it'll be middle of the road. I'm not sure it'll be in the top five, to be honest.
Okay. Okay. Let's put it at least as yellow. We like that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we have some of the more, I guess not more marquee games, a couple marquee games here in the 4 o'clock window, 4:25 window. First, you've got the big one, Cleveland going to Kansas City. We know Kansas City. We love the Chiefs. They opened as a 6 point favorite. That's what it is in the contest still. It's kind of been steady. 53.5 point opener on the total, now 54.5. Should be a fun game. Definitely looking forward to watching this with you out there in Vegas. It's hard for me to back. the Chiefs at 6, even though like 2 years ago, remember they covered every number known to man.
Mhm.
I do like this Cleveland team a lot too. I think it's just going to be a competitive game. It's a stay away for me. I think it's going to be well bet. I think it's probably going to be the biggest handle on the weekend, which for those who don't listen a lot, that's how much money people bet on it. But I don't know about a contest pick here, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of curious to me. I was trying to think back in the playoffs last year when Cleveland went on the road to Kansas City. I think
Mm-hmm.
that game closed at like 11, 10 and a half or 11.
Mm-hmm.
And now just with the off season, the game is now 6. And I don't know that the Cleveland moves, the OBJ is back, I guess. I don't know that what happened between January last year and now September really warrants a move like that. So while initially I was kind of thinking that Cleveland might be the play, but I kind of looked back and did the comparison there, and it has me pausing as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a 7 point, 7.5, like that kind of thing. But I
Hmm.
mean, Cleveland obviously played really well. They probably should have won the game, and Mahomes got hurt. It's kind of hard to evaluate that on its face. But yeah, if they put it too big, I think everybody would be on the Browns, right? So
Hmm.
they probably put it at a number which just makes us pause, and it's smart. I mean, Circa, you'll see this all year, America, if you're listening. They do this. They do a really good job with these lines.
Do you think that the Cleveland defense is better suited to handle Mahomes and the Chiefs offense this time around?
I do. I do. I think that they're not gonna need a blitz. I think they're gonna bring the pressure with the four, and I think their coverage is better this year. Now, granted, I mean they're 100% healthy, right? I mean everybody's healthy on the Chiefs. The offensive line is revamped. They've
Yeah.
got obviously young guys and they've got some older guys that they've filled in. They obviously did the trade for Orlando Brown. They're going to be better than they were in the Super Bowl. But I mean, I've talked about it. Myles Garrett could be the guy this year. He could be the defensive MVP. So I just feel like it's going to be a good game. I don't. It's tough to see this being a double digit win for the Chiefs, but they've done it before. So
Yeah. True.
all right, well here's one we may just differ on. Miami is going to New England. New England opened as a 2.5 point favorite and a 45.5 point total. It's down to 43.5 in the total, and then in the contest it's 3.5. They must be anticipating because right now the consensus is 3. They must be thinking that people are going to be betting up the Patriots. I'm hearing everybody pump up the Patriots, man. And you included last week. I'm not on board. I know Mac Jones is going to be solid, but you really think that defense? They're not going to have Gilmore. Not that
Yeah.
he was going to challenge them, but Miami's got a good team too. I don't like this line. I'm on Miami in this game.
Yeah. I bet New England already at 3, and I think that's a much different play than when we're talking about 3.5 now, which is the contest line. And I don't know. I'm torn because I think that Belichick is going to have something ready for Tua and the offense.
Yeah,
The Mac Jones is probably an upgrade over Cam. I think you would
sure.
even agree with that, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
my pause here is just on the opposite side of the ball, and I think that the Patriots defense is going to be much improved over last year. And however, I would never consider laying 3.5 in the contest. So it's
Yeah.
got to
No,
be Miami or pass.
yeah, it's Miami or pass, and I like that this number's going down. I think it's an underplay. I mean, these defenses are solid. You got a rookie Q. Tua did not light it up. He's got some guys that can make plays, but these teams are going to play it close to the vest. It's going to be like a 17-10, 17-14 game. It's going to be one of those kind of games. So, all right, well, let's go to the next one, which I'm not super excited about, but Denver is going to the Giants. The Giants open as a 1 point favorite somehow with a 43 point total. The consensus has flipped 100% to Denver. There's a lot of love for Denver right now, and it's a 3 point favorite on the road, 42 point total. I've heard a lot of things. I listened to VSiN a lot this week, action, to get ready for the podcast. And, Fangio, as much as I like him as a defensive coordinator, he has opened in 2 straight seasons. I think it was 0-4 and 1-3.
Yeah.
He's not a great starter, at least as a coach so far. So when you look at their schedule, they got a cream puff schedule walking out, Denver does. But this is a road team. I don't like the Giants, but how can Denver be laying points on the road here?
Well, I mean, the line move certainly would lend you to think that John Elway's coming back to play quarterback or something, you know.
Right.
But it's not. It's Teddy covers,
Yeah, I know Teddy
and
Combs.
Teddy covers football games. I did bet the Broncos already, but it was 2.5, and I think
Right.
at 3 it's a totally different handicap here when you go on to the key number of 3.
Right.
And I think that it's probably something we should pass on. I do, but I don't know what to expect out of the Giants. I mean, we talked
Right.
about it last week. The Denver defense is going to be nasty, so
Yep.
it's a game I'm certainly interested to see how the Giants perform against that vaunted Denver D.
Right. I like this as an under game too. As 42 is a low no number, but
Hmm.
yeah, I mean these offenses aren't going to do much. I don't think. Now was Teddy? We talked about this before. Teddy covers. Well, he was a cover on the underdog, wasn't he? Was he a cover on the favorite as well?
Well, that's true. I mean, majority of the time, especially his last couple of stints in Minnesota, and then he played in New Orleans that one season. Recall he covered a bunch of games. Um, I think you're right. Usually he is in that underdog role, but I'm sure he's covered some games as a fave too.
Right. Right. All right. Well, let's move on to a couple of the highlight games here. We've got the last 4 o'clock game, which is that in Kansas City. So you got the AFC, with Kansas City, and then the NFC one is here. Green Bay's going to New Orleans. We've already talked about this being played in Jacksonville, not New Orleans. So New Orleans open as a 1.5 point favorite at home, 51 point total. Now it's totally flipped where consensus says 3. Circa's making a choice here. They put it up to 4 in the contest with a 50 point total right now. I mean, I was actually on New Orleans at 3. I don't really like the Green Bay, how they're going to stack up against this New Orleans defense. However, to your point, maybe this, discombobulation with Jameis and everything going around, maybe it's just not a good backer for you. But I really like New Orleans plus the 4. It's a neutral site game, not a home game. But man, I can't see Green Bay. I mean, this is that they think they're 7 points better in Green Bay, huh? And this is a site game.
Yeah, I actually bet New Orleans already as well at 4.5. So I think that I'm in agreement with you on this side. I think the line move is just too much.
Right.
I'm not sure that I know it's a distraction, obviously, and the New Orleans Saints players I think they've been practicing in Texas
Right.
since the storm hit, but I'm not sure it's going to be a distraction for this game this week. I think it's something that you're going to see build over the next 6 to 8 weeks where they're constantly on the road week after week. But
Right.
I do think that New Orleans is a pretty solid value here, catching 4 points on the neutral site. I mean, remember last season how nasty their defense was.
Oh yeah.
I think they're going to be pretty good this year too, and they still have Sean Payton as the coach.
Sean Payton's great. They are healthy. I mean, obviously, it could be argued. Now, Jameis Winston, we know what he did 2 years ago. I mean, the guy threw 30 interceptions in a season. That's got to be a record. But at the end of the year, it was kind of questionable whether Breeze should have been the quarterback for this team. And really, they should have beat the Bucs. And we've talked about this many times in the playoffs. It wasn't necessarily Breeze's fault, but were they better off with Jameis Winston or even Taysom Hill at the quarterback? So on a paper, I think that this team they're really good. It's just will Jameis turn the ball over, right? And that's where he screwed us 2 years ago many times. But
Well,
I don't think Peyton's going to let that happen. And I like the plus 4.
Jameis did have the LASIK eye surgery too, remember,
Oh,
since then. So
I mean,
eagle eyes now.
exactly. I mean, I'm sure that was all because of vision. You couldn't see the player. It was standing right in front of his guy, right? Okay. Well, let's go to the 2 night games. We've got, we talked about it. Maybe we won't be chasing these games, but we got the Bears going to the Rams. This is my beloved team. Not as high on them this year. The Rams open as a 6.5 point favorite at home, 43.5 point total. The total has gone up to 46 consensus wise and up to 7.5 consensus, which is the same in the contest of 7.5. I don't disagree. I think that Rams defense is going to manhandle Andy Dalton. But the Bears defense is pretty good, and I'm not all in on Stafford, but McVay, I think he's going to show something here against this Bears, getting all this prep time against the Bears. So I wouldn't be against even taking the Rams at 7.5. It's not good with the hook, but it's probably not going to be a popular contest pick either.
Yeah, I think that this line is really just all about the Bears' inability to protect the quarterback, and going up against that LA Rams defensive line, that really is where the handicap starts and ends for me. I think, I mean, I think there's a coaching mismatch too between McVay and Matt Nagy, and
Right.
given the McVay's prowess to want to start hot and game plan, I'm sure he'll have a lot of tricks ready with Matt Stafford.
Right. Exactly.
What do you make of the total move? I hadn't noticed that previously going up here between these two teams.
It's hard to say. I would say that initially they thought this was going to be just a slugfest between two great defenses, but I mean they probably see that the Rams can score more points on the Bears than vice versa, and who knows with Andy Dalton. I don't know if they were anticipating having what's his name, Justin Fields at quarterback.
Fields.
So who knows if they could, what's the story here? But I think that Andy's probably going to turn the ball over, so that's going to help the Rams score more points too. So
That's a good
yeah,
point.
the last game is Baltimore going to Vegas, and the Raiders, and this is going to be a big deal because it's going to be obviously the first time they can have fans at the new Raiders Stadium, as well as the Rams too, right? The Rams were new stadium last year, so those are
Hmm.
both new primetime games. A little aside, our buddy Greg Gallagher, he's actually going to be at both of those. He had to tell me, oh, I can't make it to Vegas. I'm going to see the Bears play the Rams, and then I'm flying to Vegas and going to the Monday Night Football games. He works for the booze companies. I'm like, congratulations, Modelo. And yes, Luke, I should get free Modelo from my buddy. But anyway, Baltimore is going to Vegas. They open as a 5.5 point favorite on the road, 52 point total. It's down to 4.5 in consensus and 51 point total, all the way down to 4 in the contest. Probably trying to bait people into taking them, or taking maybe the Raiders. I don't know at some point. I don't love this news. We've kind of alluded to the injuries that are happening with Baltimore. They've lost 3 running backs now. It doesn't mean and you said Marcus Peters could be out.
Yep. It looks like the reports are that he also tore his ACL in practice this afternoon, along with the running back Gus Edwards.
Right. So it just kind of feels, I know it may not be the same, but feels a lot like San Francisco last year, where they're just losing players left and right. The season hasn't even started yet. It doesn't mean I love the Raiders. I don't like this team, and Baltimore's defense could still play really well, but
Mm.
I don't love this situation for the Ravens, so I can't really get on board with them. I may have originally thought that, but now I can't.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the Ravens are not a team you want to be backing right now in this spot. I do think, though, even though we talked about how the home field advantage is going to be somewhat mitigated for Las Vegas this season, I do think that out of any of the games, this one will probably give them the biggest motivational edge just from a pure energy standpoint.
Sure.
And if anything, I'll probably be looking to take Las Vegas in the first half, just kind of following that mantra that they'll come out with a little bit of extra energy with the crowd behind them.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. And that's something that we focus on this podcast really on our picks for the contest, which is the static full game line. Action is a wizard at it, and many people are, and really most pro bettors are really good at in-game wagering, which is something you should look into. We'll talk more and more about it through the season, is basically looking at the flow of the game, maybe looking at the original line, and maybe going back on a certain way if the game is going out of hand one way, because it'll probably come back. It usually does. So there's good opportunities to kind of win money in the game, even if you've kind of blown your cover in the first half or something on the other way, in like our contest picks, for example. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so it sounds like we got a lot of good options here to pick from. I was a little worried when I first started looking at this last week. I have a little more conviction with some of these. It looks like we have, it's like 6 or 7 options for
Yeah.
our picks, which is great. So I'm really excited about that. We'll definitely define our picks. We'll probably put them in when we're there, right? I'd imagine on Saturday when we get in there.
Yeah, I mean, we could wait until to the 2 o'clock. No, I guess it's 3 o'clock Pacific time deadline, but that
Right.
could be a little bit risky since we are planning to be at Stadium Swim all day. As the time wears on, the chances of us missing the pick window greatly increases.
If anybody saw the picture from March Madness of me at Stadium Swim, yeah, there's a pretty good chance I should be making picks at that point. I can roll some dice, but completely shit-faced.
Yeah, I don't expect there's going to be a lot of late breaking news this week either, so I think we'll be safe to get it in probably sometime in the morning.
Right. Well, that kind of wraps up the NFL segment. We'll just kind of talk here about our trip that starts tomorrow, and we obviously have our man who's at Circa right now, and I don't know if you got to see the picture action. He looks upon the Circa Stadium swim pool from his
Nice.
room, which he got comped, because he hit the big slot over there. So we're looking forward to that. We got, prime time's going to hit us there as well. I don't know, you're probably going to arrive about the same time. Are we going to meet up with Mr. E Fantasy
Yeah,
tomorrow?
I texted him with Cola. He's there now. He had a draft this morning and one more
Nice.
tonight and another one tomorrow morning. He's Mr.
Oh,
Drafting Machine right now. But he'll be around tomorrow evening and leaving Saturday.
great. We'll definitely have to hit a craps table to see if we can duplicate some action of a couple years ago. And if you are in the area, I know one of my volleyball buddies is supposed to be in the area. I'll be texting him. Hopefully, he can meet up at Stadium Swim. We ended up bagging on the cabana, but we'll definitely already have GA tickets, and we're going to be there Saturday. And then Sunday, we haven't decided where we're going to go, but definitely wanted to catch the action at some of the books. And obviously, it's going to be 102 degrees action, so we'll have to figure some indoor venues as well.
Definitely. It's hot.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Well, that wraps up this edition of the Side Action Podcast. Follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram, and follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter.
And you can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
All right, good luck in week one, and we'll check back in after our big trip and see how everybody did.
Enjoy, everyone. That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made. As the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.